Ian Murray, you spoke at that fringe meeting as well with Kezia Dugdale, talking about, you said that what was needed to pursue this case for a single market was to convince the Labour front bench. Jeremy Corbyn does not sound convinced. He seemed to think it was a block thwarting his ambitions for a socialist agenda.
Well, I've said all along that all I want to do is for the front bench of the Labour Party to have a position that is the least worst option if we leave the European Union, and that's the single market and the customs union. But also I've said regularly in Parliament and to the public in public forums that whether you agree with the single market and the customs union or not, you should at least keep it on the table. And Richard said in his speech there, his very good speech, I have to say,
yes,
but he said that we should keep all options open. That's all I'm arguing for. And the option, the least worst option, if we leave and when we leave the European Union, is to remain members of the single market and the customs union. And if I could just say one very quick point about the manifesto. The Labour Party wrote the manifesto for the start of the election in June 2017. Whilst we were still a member of the European Union, it is all deliverable.
Neil Findlay, what's the concern? What's the anxiety in Jeremy Corbyn's mind, and presumably yours, about the constraints that there could be upon your programme?
Well, first of all, can I say, Brian, it's good to speak to you, especially after such a fantastic speech from Richard Leonard, and full of content, great delivery. So that's the focus for me today, is on that. And we move to our Brexit debate tomorrow, which I am thoroughly looking forward to.
Yeah.
I think the party has got a very good position in relation to where we are in the Brexit debate. I think Keir Starmer, who has performed fantastically well through this, and the 6 tests that Keir set out, clearly put us in a place where a bad deal will not be supported by the Labour Party when the vote comes in Parliament.
Do you take the argument from Ian Murray, Kezia Dugdale and others that membership of the single market is required to protect jobs and protect workers' rights?
Well, I think that is a problem, because obviously we had a referendum, and the decision of the people was to leave the EU. Now, we can't be in the existing single market if we're outside. So I think access to that market is what we want. We want a tariff-free area to trade in. Jeremy's already set that out. I think that's a good place for us to be in.
Ian Murray, in effect, you're trying to reverse the referendum result.
No,
you're not
all.
respecting it.
All the analysis shows that the least worst option when we leave the European Union is single market and customs union. Now, Jeremy's already
point
said
that is not compatible with
well, let's burst that myth right away. Norway's in the single market, but it's not a member of the European Union. Turkey's in the customs union, but is not a member of the European Union. The UK should leave on its negotiating table the option of staying in the single market and the customs union for jobs and for future prosperity. It resolves the island issue, it resolves the trading issues, it resolves regulatory harmonisation issues. This is a common sense approach, and we should grab it with both hands while we've still got the chance.
I mean, the reality is that Norway and Turkey are not full members with voting rights, and they are law takers in effect. So it's a very different situation. And we're not comparing the same economies. The Norwegian economy is much smaller than the UK economy. So we need a deal that's right for the UK. And we can do that by negotiating that access to the single market and having that tariff-free area of the customs union.
Ian, Jeremy Corbyn said yesterday that he would not allow Labour's programme to be undermined by what he described as low-cost agency workers being imported into the UK. You took exception to that.
Well, I think what we have to do is not scapegoat immigrants, but actually deal with the problem of employers bringing cheap labour into this country, undermining labour laws. That was in the Labour manifesto in 15 and 17. I think the choice of language when it comes to the immigration debate has to be very, very carefully chosen, and I wish it was just starker that we were talking about employers and not immigrants. You
said on the fringe that only Nigel Farage would be laughing at those.
Well, I think that's the way it's now been portrayed, so I think it would be very useful if Jeremy was to clarify those comments. Migration is great for this country. We need it for our public services. You're more likely to be dealt with and kept healthy by a migrant in the NHS than they are likely to use the NHS. Now, in France, they want to deal with some of these issues, but you've got to do it within the European Union.
You were shaking your head there, Neil Findlay.
I mean, the idea that Jeremy, who represents Islington, probably a constituency that's an absolute melting pot of different cultures and different peoples, someone who's married to a Mexican woman would be scapegoating migrants, I think is just completely wrong. What he was doing was showing how bad employers have been exploiting migrants coming into the country, and I think that's a very important point, particularly for the Labour Party and the Labour movement, because I want workers wherever they come from to have the same terms and conditions and the same protections, and that's what Jeremy was highlighting.
Very briefly, are you still open to single market membership, or do you believe that's ruled out?
Well, I think that's a very difficult position for us to be in relation to the accepting result of the referendum. However, we will have a good debate tomorrow. And at the beginning, Brian, you said the whole situation over these negotiations is very fluid. I think it is very fluid.
In a word, Ian Murray, you can win this argument for single market membership.
You can't satisfy the 6 tests that Keir Starmer have set without staying in the single market and the customs.
Thank you both very much indeed, Ian Murray and Neil Findlay. Thanks very much indeed, and back to the studio.